Welcome to Baseball Card Illustrated, the show about our national pastime illustrated with baseball cards. I'm Bronco, the PSA 11.
And I'm Kevin, now using knee ligaments to see if I can throw maybe 50 miles an hour this time.
And this is 1991 Topps.
Oh, baby, the 80s are over, the wild craziness is done. 1991 is upon us, and my goodness, the Atlanta Braves are actually a decent baseball team.
And we're in Rack Pack form today.
91 was a crazy year. You had, in the baseball world, you had two teams that finished last the previous year, the Braves and Twins, that played in the World Series. Absolutely classic World Series. And then you had this very interesting mix in the game at the time of superstars at the end of their careers, George Brett, Robin Yount, Nolan Ryan, and then you had some of these new guys, the Ken Griffey Jr.'s of the world, that were starting up. So,
and our first card is a Brave, and someone you probably don't even remember played for the Braves.
Nick Esaski. He was good as a Cincinnati Red and played for the Boston Red Sox, and then went to Atlanta and just fell right off the face of the earth. In fact,
you know how many games he played for the Braves in 1990?
Hit it.
9.
9 games. I think that might have been literally his Braves career, because if you remember, Sid Bream is the first baseman that you know from the early 90s Braves. And, of course, they had a right-hander as well. I think his name was Brian Hunter.
Brian L. Hunter, right?
Brian L. Hunter. So this was Nick Esaski. He's sporting the 80s mustache, and he's about to get left behind in the 90s.
I was going to say, I think our comment on that card was longer than his career with the Braves. And Pirates? Speaking of the Braves of that era, you can't talk about them without mentioning the Pirates.
Well, the thing about the Pirates, they were really snake bit because and Bob Patterson, you're not the reason they're snake bit, but they had such good teams, Bonds and Van Slyke and Bobby Bonilla, and all these guys, and the Braves got good and the Mets were good, and so the Pirates basically were second fiddle that whole time, but they had a team that could have won a World Series.
Yeah, now we go to John Burkett, who was a really good pitcher at this time.
You know what else he was?
Bowler.
He was a bowler. That's exactly right. In fact, that form looks like he would be all right.
I was going to say, just looking at that card, that was the first thing I thought of.
Now, here's a question. Do you think he ever in the bowling alley stood like this, getting ready to bowl, and then tried to throw the ball?
It kind of looks like he would have.
Yeah, like
maybe the ball would have been a little bit lower, but
put like a 7-pounder or something right there. Just have him chuck it overhand. See.
Well, I was going to say, did you know he actually bowled overhand?
If he did, he's the revolutionary bowler.
Take a look here. He only won 14 games in 1990, which was the last year of stats on this card. But he was part of that nice rotation the Giants had with Billy Swift and other guys. By the way, you know what his favorite NHL team is?
Hit it.
The Pittsburgh Penguins.
That's not possible, is it?
Well, that's what the card said.
You can't be.
We almost lost Big Mac here.
Oh boy! Hey, Mark McGwire. Now we're talking.
And when you think of Mark McGwire, all the things that he accomplished in his career, sliding into third was probably not one of them.
This is classic fifth-year baseball card stuff right here. You've seen McGwire as the baby-faced rookie, and then you've seen him in his majestic pose, swinging and hitting home runs. This is one of those times where it's like, oh look, I can slide into a base too.
I'm gonna say the Topps company has gone from, sitting in the dugout, Mark McGwire, to his rookie card with USA holding the bat, to holding a runner on base, to sliding in the third, and now with the Topps 2020 project, batting looking like Peppa Pig.
Who knew? This is interesting because this was a bad era for Mark McGwire. People, Mark McGwire early. Obviously, you know him for many of the wrong reasons late in his career, but this is an interesting in-between time. Mark McGwire hit .235 with 39 homers and 108 ribbies is a good stat line for 1990, but 91 and 92, he really was struggling. A lot of strikeouts, and had to have a hitting coach basically retool his approach. And once the strike was over, that's when he got really good and somehow bigger.
And with that, we move on to Sergio Valdez.
Sergio!
And with that, we move right on to the next guy, which is Dave Valley, longtime catcher for the Mariners.
There's some kind of Seattle, I think it's a restaurant or something like that offered a sandwich for the cost of Dave Valley's batting average.
We've been tracking subscribers here on Baseball Card Illustrated with the Shawno meter. Maybe we can get a menu and do like the Dave Valley sandwich thing going on with subscriber numbers.
He was 214 in 1990, and I think it got worse as time went on.
So if he ended up batting like 320 some year by mistake, would they have included like a free bowl of soup with it?
Either that or just making money. I mean, if you're a fan, I'll pay $3.20 if my catcher hits that.
Now, here's a guy we've talked about on other editions of Baseball Card Illustrated, Wally Joyner, and I can confirm there are pictures of him with batting gloves.
Yes, who knew? Who knew that was the case?
That is a thing that he did at some point.
Joyner was another one of these guys that it was all about timing. His rookie year was a great rookie year. The Angels in '86 made the playoffs, but Jose Canseco was around at that time. So
just throw the stats up there if anyone wants to take a look at those.
Yeah, definitely
he definitely started like a house of fire in his career, and unfortunately it didn't quite continue at that same level.
56 home runs and 217 ribbies his first 2 years. And then, this was 1990 was a rough year, and they were all kind of rough in the 90s. He's another one that didn't want the 80s to go away.
Here's a guy that definitely had a nice run throughout the course of his career, both in the 80s and a resurgence in the 90s.
Wow. 1. That's the number of World Series Hershiser will appear in after this. Or was it 2? He was with the Indians in 95.
Yeah, I think he was with the Indians, yeah.
And then 97 also, maybe. Okay, so maybe more than 1.
So 1, that's the number of runs he gave up one time over a 60-inning stretch. And you really had to stretch to get to that, right?
That's the truth. Yeah, that's as good as it got in the game at that point. And Hershiser was still pretty good, although he was hurt for most of 1990. 25 innings, that's all he threw.
Moving on to Greg Olson, speaking of pitchers, he was a pretty good closer back in the this era.
So kids, if you're unaware of this, there's a thing called a 12-6 curveball. It's kind of gone the way of the hit and run and some of the other things, but there used to be some great 12-6 curveballs that broke straight down, and he had one of the best. It's a hard curve that broke down, and it's just really difficult to hit.
I'm going to say, I remember they used to have the shirts that they kind of looked a little like the bobblehead dolls to some degree, the big heads and the little bodies. I had a Greg Olson shirt.
That's awesome.
I'm not 100% sure why. I've never even been to Baltimore in my life, but there was a Greg Olson fan.
Wow. Here's the Jack Clark was a Padre? Steve Garvey ain't my Padre.
But apparently Jack Clark is? I don't think Jack Clark was your Padre either.
No, I didn't get that batting prowess. I can draw walks.
I'm going to say this is probably a good time to point out that not only do we have a Padres sticker up over here, we've got a new backdrop thanks to our friend Dylan who made this for us.
Yes, that's terrific design. But you've kept the classics, including Hum Babe.
I'm going to say let's let everybody take a better look at that there. And we'll throw up a card now of David Segui, who, just throw out this little thing, send out a card to him for our Through the Mail Thursday channel promotion that we do here. So we'll see when that comes back. Had a lot of success on that. Hope you've been getting a chance to watch that and some of the autographs that have come back. And hopefully David Segui on a 2003 Donruss will be one of them.
How about that? Son of a major leaguer, Diego.
I say, did I get a little too
you're good.
ahead
You're
of
good.
things?
No, you could call for the righty.
There's Charlie Hayes.
Oh, wow.
I always liked Charlie Hayes. He spent, I think it was a year or two at the Brewers. I'm not 100% sure how many years it was, but I always liked Charlie Hayes.
He was a beast, and he was a beast. The Giants is where I really remember him, is just his toughest years where it was hardest to get him out. Yeah, that's another underrated third baseman. So, kids, your lesson. The two things that kept Charlie Hayes from being famous at this time are what's in the corner, third base.
Oh, I thought it was just the logo.
The logo. Yeah, this doesn't help either. And the Phillies.
So it was the logo.
It was their team logo. Because if you say third base and Phillies and it's 1991, there's only one name. He's been retired a couple years, but Mike Schmidt is the only thing people are thinking of. So Charlie could have been Mike Schmidt, but he still wouldn't have been Mike Schmidt.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. What year did he catch the final out of the World Series for the Yankees?
Charlie Hayes?
Charlie Hayes.
I'm going to go with 98.
I believe that's correct.
Against the Padres.
Don't you like it when somebody asks a trivia question and isn't 100% sure of the answer? If I'm wrong, please leave a comment down below.
It's
and if I'm right, give us a thumbs up. How's that for a trade?
Speaking of Yankees, this is the Yankees in between being good. Mm-hmm. You know, you had the Yankees winning in the late 90s, but these Yankees were mortal as you can tell, because it's Alvaro Espinoza.
Now, is it fair to assume that Derek Jeter is the guy, or well, obviously the guy that played shortstop forever for the Yankees, but would this be the guy that he replaced at the position?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or was there somebody in between there?
No, that might be right.
So you go from Alvaro Espinoza, who was batting a solid that was a slugging percentage, 224. And have you ever seen this? 1984 with the Twins, I'm going to throw that up there. His slugging percentage was so bad, it's just a line.
It's a hash mark.
Now, granted, that's in, what, N at bat?
One
no at bats, okay.
Oh, no at bats, one game.
So,
by the way,
I had the same slugging percentage as Alvaro Espinoza in 1984.
Go into the card design here for a second. There's a couple of pretty cool things happening here. One is that 40-year logo from Topps that's embedded in the background, the red and blue.
And you can see it in the front of that, too, in the corner.
Top left. So that's 1951 was the first ever Topps issue, not a full issue, but a couple of short red and blue issues in 1951. So it's the 40-year anniversary. Plus, these monthly scoreboards down here, and I think this is kind of a cool thing, right? Because if you have a player that gets hot, like Aramis Ramirez, if he had existed in the 1991 set, would have eye-popping numbers, because down here, hits and runs, April and May, he'd look like a pedestrian player, and then he'd be an MVP from June on.
I was going to say, I would always check those to see who had like the most home runs in a month back in those days. So I always like that. Fleer at the time would have the day and night splits on the back of their cards. I always like that. Donruss would have the contract details and usually how the player was acquired. That was kind of fun. But I always like the monthly breakdown.
That's fun. Alvaro Espinoza, the pre-Derek Jeter.
And speaking of pre-somebody else, this was the pre-Chuck Knobloch when it came to throwing problems. Mackie Sasser.
We need a sports psychologist here on Baseball Card Illustrated, mostly just for the two of us to figure out our problems. But Mackie Sasser, if you don't know, that's one to Google and watch. Mackie developed a problem throwing the ball back to the pitcher, and would pump fake 4 or 5 times before a throw. And if you've ever seen him go through the different eras of it, it's unfortunate, obviously, but it's fascinating, because for a while he was trying to throw the ball back like he was throwing a runner out at second, and he was taking pitchers' heads off with his throws back, so they couldn't do that. Guys were stealing off of him. It was sad, because he's a good catcher. He could hit.
And the final, speaking of guys that could hit, this guy, you're talking about a one-year wonder, Kevin Moss.
Wow. 1990. Let's take a little review, shall we? 1990. Go get everything that's neon in your closet. Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? And remember the way New York was in 1990. There were 2 heroes in the making in baseball in 1990 in New York City. Kevin Moss for the Yankees and Dave Magadan for the Mets. Those two were great young hitting first basemen. They looked like they were going to be the future of the game. Kevin Moss, Dave Magadan. It's a tough time to be in New York.
I'm going to say, and on the back of this stat, or back of the card here, you can see his 21 home runs in 79 games. That was setting the world in the, I guess, the collectible hobby, right? On fire at the time.
What I remember him for,
at least briefly.
Yeah, he was a guy for a moment. What I remember him for is Stratomatic, because he was a Stratomatic beast. Because Stratomatic doesn't care if you only had 200 at bats; they just throw your stats up there. So I hit Kevin Moss 4 times as often as he hit in real life.
I'm going to say, as long as you kept the dice on the table, you were good with that.
That's been a problem my whole life.
Anyway, that's the first, what do you call these? Not a pack of the Rack Pack.
Section
of the Rack Pack. That's the first section of the Rack Pack here on Baseball Card Illustrated. As we take a look at 1991 Topps.
Star power in this set. Not bad.
We've busted out the Shawnometer here on the Baseball Card Illustrated channel to help us keep track of subscribers. If you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button and helping us increase our batting average. Also, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. Now, let's move on to the next section of a 1991 Topps Rack Pack here on Baseball Card Illustrated.
Baseball Card Illustrated continues with the bowling version of John Burkett.
I thought that was just like a black hole, like a void in the universe right there, jumping through dimensions through the glove.
So he is slinging strikes with a baseball and a bowling ball.
And now we're going to bring you the 7-10 split of the baseball card universe of its time frame, 1991 Topps. Lots of hype, 40th anniversary, lots of cards produced.
And we'll just right on top go with another pitcher here. It's a Martinez. He pitched for the Dodgers.
Yes. Ramon Martinez.
And we'll just leave it there.
He was terrific. He's in need of a cheeseburger there, but he was terrific. That's a tall drink of water.
And the next card we got here, I don't know if anyone watches the Jabs Family channel, but you certainly know all about this guy, but John Wathan. Have you ever heard that story?
No.
So he opened on that channel a I think it was 81 Donruss box. And they kept getting like the same 4 or 5 cards, and one of them was this guy here. And I think by the time the break was over, he had 100 John Wathans.
Oh, wow.
So that became a whole big thing.
Good catcher, good manager.
And now he's going to be covered up by Mike Henneman.
Mike Henneman. Wait a minute. Mike Henneman's trying to pitch like Trevor Hoffman. That's Trevor Hoffman's delivery right there.
A little bit. I don't think he quite found the same success, though.
Yeah, I don't see the same changeup coming out of Mike Henneman. Maybe his fastball was Trevor Hoffman's changeup.
Well, he did have a fairly decent career. I mean, not to take anything away from him, but he wasn't quite Trevor Hoffman.
Mike Henneman, Detroit Tigers.
You know who else wasn't Trevor Hoffman? Pete Smith.
This is another one of those where the 2 biggest problems with this guy is what's in the corner, the pitcher, and the logo, the Braves. Because it's like if I learned to play the guitar and I walk into a room and 5 Jimi Hendrixes are in the room. It's like, well, I'm going to feel bad about my life. Sorry, Pete Smith, it was a fine pitcher in his major league career, but Glavine, Smoltz, Steve Avery, and everybody forgot about him.
Just like in music, you got to go on tour, I guess. Wow, we have all kinds of cards in this pack, including him. Randy
Tomlin. I know I've been sharing some Stratomatic stories, but I have to share another one. Randy Tomlin's 1990 season, that will be on the back of this card, was actually phenomenal.
Was it really?
Yep. 2.55 ERA. And let's see. The record was only 4-4, but he threw 2 complete games in 12 starts and only walked 12 guys all year. So this is one of the Pirates' future stars. So I snatched this dude up. He was a little homer happy. They allowed too many homers, but
which is a good thing if you're Kevin Moss,
right?
Not a good thing if you're a pitcher.
If you're Randy Tomlin, yeah. So the bottom line of that: don't let Stratomatic influence your actual opinions of guys in real life.
We're going to come up on a couple guys we've gotten autographs from here
Whoa.
on our throwback. I keep calling it the wrong thing. On Through the Mail Thursday.
It's all throwbacks.
It's Ron Gant, and I'll show you the next card here.
Hit it.
I was hoping we were going to make it 3 in a row, but it's not. Mark Eichhorn is another one that we've gotten an autograph from.
So you have autographs from both these guys.
We got both of them.
And right now, here's what's happened. Ron Gant is following through on his swing, and I haven't even thrown the ball yet, dude. This is what throwing underhanded sidearm will do. It really.
I was going to say that actually looks like his pitching motion there, though.
Surprised that ball is still in his hand. He might have gotten rid of it. Ron Gant, as you know, now a news anchor in the Atlanta area. I do not know what Mark Eichhorn is doing.
I'm going to say, what channel?
Channel 5, the Fox station.
Mark Eichhorn is actually in a band.
Is he really?
He is.
That's why I got back to you so quick with the cards.
I guess so.
They're social distancing, too. Gene Larkin. So, can I go back and pull a guy here?
You can.
This guy breaks this guy's heart.
That's true.
That's the story of 1991. If anyone asks you 1991 in a sentence, he breaks his heart. Gene Larkin was the...
And that was actually the name of a song by Mark Eichhorn's group.
He breaks his heart.
He breaks his heart.
Gene
Number 1
Larkin,
on the charts.
Game 7 of the 1991 World Series was the last batter, hit the ball over a drawn-in outfield to give the Twins the title in extra innings.
And celebrated his birthday in the clubhouse.
Yes, he did. Jack Morris threw 10 innings in that game. That feels like 100 years ago.
I was going to say, there's another thing you don't hear of anymore.
Randy Bush.
I meant the 10 innings thing, not Randy Bush.
Not Randy Bush.
I'm not really sure what he's up to these days either. Ever since he was president twice.
Yeah.
Including at this time.
Who knew? That's right. 1991, Desert Shield. And by the way, we should mention, while this is up here, these are regular cards. These are not the Desert Shield cards that are incredibly valuable from this same set. The only difference is, instead of the 40 logo, there's a Desert Shield logo. Those cards were handed out to soldiers in the Gulf. And they are insanely valuable.
And speaking of insanely valuable...
Wasn't Matt Young one of those guys that signed a contract with the Red Sox for a couple of $1 million right after this, and then he just sort of imploded?
I don't know. Look at the numbers of losses this guy suffered, though, through the course of the year.
Wow, he was 8-18 in 1990.
There's a 15-loss season in there.
Wow.
Like, you turn those around, and he had a pretty nice run going.
So there's a 19-loss season for the Mariners in 85. Then he goes around the league, Dodgers and A's. The Mariners take him back, and he loses 18 games. So you can't teach an old Mariner new tricks.
Although, in fairness, around this time, it might have been easy to lose that number of games for the Mariners.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much 1990, but definitely in the 80s.
Yeah, you could lose 18 and be a good pitcher.
I don't know why we got him still up there, because we got to make room for the Hawk.
Wait a minute. I got a question. What year is it? It's 1991. Andre Dawson's still hanging out. He's not a Florida Marlin yet. The Marlins don't exist in this world, nor do the Rockies. But they're coming. Wally Whitehurst. Wasn't he a quarterback? Oh, Charlie Whitehurst. And David Whitehurst.
I'm going to say, I think this is a time for a shout-out to a friend of ours from New York.
Yeah. Omar Minaya just signed Wally Whitehurst.
I was going to say, I think that's about the only thing we can add about that, right? El Presidente makes another appearance here on Baseball Card Illustrated.
Okay, so this is the Nostradamus of 1991 baseball cards, because it's a Dennis Martinez card, and it's in Dodger Stadium. You can tell that, right? You can very clearly tell the background, the blue background. He's in Dodger Stadium. In 1991, at Dodger Stadium, Dennis Martinez threw a perfect game. So he was so at home in this, because this picture is clearly not from 1990, because you have to use them from the year before. But this was predictive of one of the great moments of 91.
I'm going to flip this card around here so you can see the stats. What's kind of amazing to me is we talked about his win total and everything. He would go on to win a bunch of games. I think it was 245 if I'm not mistaken. Never won 20 games in a season.
That's crazy. Great consistency, and he was on some really good teams. The Orioles, were a World Series team a couple of times in his tenure there.
The Indians
way later. We were talking, he was in a World Series in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. 3 different decades for a pitcher.
I'm going to say, and I think he made his first All-Star appearance in the 90s after all these years in the big leagues.
That's absolute craziness. But an unheralded pitcher of his era. Never a superstar, but a great pitcher in his era. And, again, threw a perfect game in 1991. Dave Bergman. I feel like Dave Bergman is... that picture is from 1984, I think. 7 years before.
You talk about classic uniforms.
Yeah.
The Tigers have had this basic look for much of the time they've been around.
Mustache, Tiger Stadium background, uniform. It could be any year. It could be it wouldn't be the 60s, but it could be anywhere in the 80s, 90s.
I'm going to say, you've been to a bunch of stadiums. Did you ever get to Tiger Stadium?
Never did. I missed that sort of oldish era of stadiums that got knocked out. I would love to have gone to Tiger Stadium, though.
So there's actually one that I've been to that you never made it to.
You got there,
Excellent.
Huh?
I did.
You didn't sit in center field, did you? Because it's like...
I did not, but it would have been kind of fun.
Yeah. And Tony Castillo.
There's our final pick of this pack.
He is happy because he is wearing the jersey of the National League champions of that year. I don't know why else.
And with that, we'll take a look at Pack 3 right after this here on Baseball Card Illustrated.
We are building a nice roster of big league autographs of the cards we come across here on Baseball Card Illustrated. To find out who is next to get the call up to our show, check out this week's edition of Through the Mail Thursday. While we are in the middle of the second inning, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and leave us a comment down below. Now it's time to move on to a 1991 Topps Rack Pack Lightning Round right here on Baseball Card Illustrated.
It's the lightning round of Baseball Card Illustrated. We're going to go through an entire rack pack, 45 cards, as quickly as we possibly can.
1991.
And it's going to take me an hour to open.
Yeah, it's like you have more time opening than anything. It takes you as long to open that pack as it would for me to put on a pair of high tops from that era. Oh, maybe they're the pump high tops. Remember the Nike
I do.
Command Force high tops?
The D Browns. Here we go.
They were huge. Lenny Harris, pinch hitter extraordinaire. Craig Worthington, might be Lenny Harris.
Ron Karkovice, who's 97 years old and looking a little bit like Charlie Huff. Maybe he caught for him.
He probably did. Jim Gott. On you go. Doug Rader was the Angels manager for 8 minutes. Wow, Dickie Thon's still in the league.
Here's one of my favorite cards.
That's a great action pose.
That's absolutely.
Was that the first ever use of a drone, maybe?
I know we're in the lightning round, but I was wondering if that was at the Sky Dome, but it couldn't have been. He was with the Padres at the time.
Steve Lake, that's a catcher, one of those catchers that hung around for a long time. Oh, look at Roger McDowell, no sandpaper at all.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, I'm sorry, that's Jay Buhner.
Jocko Scott Bradley, Seattle Mariners. There's Eric Yelding. That was a superstar in the making. Speaking of superstars, Kevin Mitchell. This is when the weight gain was happening for Kevin Mitchell. And then Mike Morgan went to the big league straight out of high school in the 70s.
And Todd Zeil's the final card of first section.
1991, me would have loved that Todd Zeile was in that pack. You would have thought that's a guy to hang on to.
Here's a good card to start off the second one.
Oh, there's another young superstar. Catcher Craig Biggio. He looks so little there. Bob Malacky. He's ready for it. Tony, look at Tony Fernandez, R.I.P., recently passed away.
I always like Tony Fernandez.
Yeah, man. Great shortstop. And Bob Walk, one of the best pitcher names in history. I would just call myself Kevin Strikeout or Kevin Elster. That would also work. Kirk Gibson hurts A's fans to see it every time, but he was good.
He also played with this guy at one point.
That's right. Sweet Lou talking about Tiger greats at the time. Man, Mike Devereaux, known...
That's a silent X, by the way.
That's a lot of letters. There's Omar Vizquel in his Mariners days. He was another Indian later in the 90s. Les Lancaster. How are you going to throw out of that motion? Those arms are low. Jose de Jesus. The Phillies. That's the one I don't remember much. Jerry Don Gleaton.
All right, timeout here.
That's two first names and one last name.
So on Baseball Card Illustrated, one guy that we've come across in a number of packs is the very next card here. Our buddy Walt Terrell.
There he is, Walt Terrell.
We've missed
Tiger
you.
Star. He is back once again. He's like, you've gone through two of these things without even pulling a card of me, so now you have to.
You know, we're still waiting to hear back from him for Through the Mail Thursday. We have a card out to him, but we haven't heard back, and he's supposedly a pretty reliable signer. Okay. All right, time back in.
It is. Franklin Stubbs, power hitter of his time. Look at Tommy Lasorda. Okay, I'm trying to figure out where in the Slim Fast plan this is. This is...
plate number 7 of Spaghetti.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I think this might be pre-Slim Fast, unfortunately. It's amazing that Lasorda, one, is still hanging around, and two, like, pops into Dodgers games from time to time. In the year 2020, he's been around forever.
Oh, yeah, I got to tell the story real quickly. I read it in a book, and I forget whose book it was, but there's a great story about him being at a dinner party and getting, you know, after dinner, sometimes he had to go use the facilities, and he got stuck to a toilet seat. There's your Tommy Lasorda too much information story of the day.
I love it.
Here's the next pack.
Wow, Bud Black, known as much
Another
for
manager.
his managing career as he was as a pitcher. He's a pretty good pitcher though for the Royals. Eric Schau gave up the Pete Rose's 41.92. There's Jimmy Gantner, Milwaukee cult hero. Is that Lou Piniella? I mean, I know it says Jim Lefebvre. I think it's Lou Piniella. It's got to be. Jose Mesa.
Now, you know where his role in Brewers history is, right?
Oh, talk to me.
He gave up Robin Yount's 3,000th hit.
Did he really?
He did.
He gave up a lot of hits in key situations in the 90s. Ken Patterson. I like those White Sox hats. They're a little underrated. I know that everybody's all about them.
We can't agree on that one. Never been a fan of that.
John Russell. Several Russells in Major League Baseball. They're interchangeable. Jeff Brantley, who was a tremendous closer and then has become an announcer for the last minute.
Kirby Puckett!
There he is. Again, a heartbreaker in 91. He's the one that won Game 6 off Charlie Leibrandt. That was one of the great moments of his career.
You got any stories about this guy?
Checklist 6. Well, if you like Seattle or Texas, that's your guy.
Still not a Hall of Famer. What do you know about this guy? Anything?
Russ Swan. The first thing that strikes me is, where is that photo?
I paused when I saw that, too. I'm not sure what's going on there.
That's got to be a spring training park, right? Of some kind. Probably one that doesn't exist anymore.
You know, I was going to say it almost looks like Wrigley Field, but I see San Francisco here, and I say that because of the scoreboard there. Yeah. But must be the Giants spring training facility?
Yeah, maybe. It would have been in Phoenix at the time.
Yeah, who
Remember,
knows?
there were no Diamondbacks at the time. Wow. Now, everybody at that time had Ryne Sandberg as their favorite player for a while. Did you ever?
Not really. Although that is a point for you in our contest between Team Kevin and Team Bronko.
Yes, all-time second baseman, Ryne Sandberg. Scott Bankhead. Man, there's a lot of Mariners. We could put a team of Mariners out there. There's La Russa. That's the height, too. The A's made the series in '89 and '90. They made the playoffs in '92. Like this is when La Russa was a thing. There's Topps B12457 BCD, one of my absolute favorites.
I'm going to say instant winner. And finally,
Mike Perez.
So our goal was to make this segment 8 minutes. We got it done in 6:15, and we'll be back with the final third of a rack pack of 1991 Topps right here on Baseball Card Illustrated.
Thank you for watching Baseball Card Illustrated, where Kevin and I rip open packs in search of some of our favorite players. Rob Deere is one of several Brewers honored on their Wall of Fame, including the likes of Paul Molitor, Robin Yount, and even this guy from the movie Major League.
It's the final inning here on Baseball Card Illustrated as we take a look at 1991 Topps. And Kevin, what do you got here for us?
This is Eric Schau. That's an in-action pose right there. I don't know if he's throwing a Scroogey or what that is, but the face makes me realize that I really enjoyed Eric Schau in his previous career as music star Julian Lennon. Who knew?
Very talented.
Learn something new every day here on Baseball Card Illustrated. Eric Schau, known forever, obviously, is the guy that gave up 41-92 to Pete Rose, the record-breaking hit to Pete Rose. But that was several years before this. He was still going strong.
And here's a guy that was going strong at this time as well.
Oh, that's a big card for the time. Look at babyface Steve Avery. You know, there was a time when people thought Avery would be the ace of that staff.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, you had, obviously, Glavine and Smoltz. Maddox came along later, but this was going to be the guy.
Yeah, so if you were...
Of all the Hall of Famers...
Yeah, here's Steve Avery, who was really good for a while as a very, very young man, but it did not last. I think he was born in the 70s, by the way, which is an extreme... Yeah, he was born in 1970, so think about 1991.
I'm going to say, was he the youngest player at the time, or would Griffey have been younger?
I think Griffey was born in '69? I'd have to look that up.
I'm going to say that looks like a challenge for us here. There's Ozzie Guillen.
Ozzie Guillen. Defensive whiz, and then he tried to manage.
And he had some fun with his sunglasses there. How about that?
It's a sunny day in Chicago. Speaking of, on the other side of Chicago, it was a very active day for Luis Salazar. Wow. They're both looking at first, like, did that throw get there? Or the way they're looking, did that throw go up the first baseline?
And with the Cubs, anything is possible.
Yeah, right? Kevin, I'm going to say that Kevin is Wickander, right?
I believe it's Wickander, yeah.
Kevin Wickander. There's a classic American League, early 90s. Like, even the Cleveland jersey, I'm all about that. I was
going to say, and this was right at the very edge of when the Indians would start to make their charge through the American League and into a couple World Series, as the Loftons and the Bells and the Ramirez's were starting to kind of make their way through the ranks.
To look at that lineup by the time 95 happened was crazy. Jim Thome, Carlos Baerga.
Through the mail Thursday, we've got Kevin Romine is one of the cards that's out right now, and hopefully we get this one back, not this one back signed, but one from him, I should say.
Kevin Romine is if I know this right, is the dad of 3 major leaguers, at least 2, one of which played every position in a game.
For both teams.
Now that would be a new one.
He was real dedicated to the cause.
Traded in the 5th inning, and he finished out the game on the other team.
Okay, now the Braves are a team that you know a lot about, grew up watching and everything. Anything about this guy at all?
No.
I cannot say I remember him at all.
That is a name lost to history right there. Let's dig in here. He played in places like Idaho Falls, Sumter, Durham, and then, of course, Greenville and Richmond. He had 3.69 ERA for the 1990 Braves. Now, you have to remember, the 1990 Braves, the ones that he played on, were a last-place team. The 1991 Braves, the year of this card set, World Series team.
So you're speculating that he may not have been around as the Braves kind of flipped the script and became a team to beat.
They improved their roster. And he was replaced by, the Steve Averys of the world. Look at Ken Oberkfell. That's another name where you look at this and you think, he was still around in the 90s? Like, that's a shock to me.
He sounds like a guy that we would have found on like a 1984 Topps card when we did that series.
He would have been a Cardinal then.
And it would have been like, okay, this must have been about the end of the line. Nope, he was still going strong. Let's take a look at some of these numbers here for him. And never a big home run hitter, but a guy that would generally bat 270, 280, could get on base for you, and I guess I could make it easier for people to see the stats by actually putting the card up there. But
yeah, you know, these things happen.
It's kind of creepy that the guy we were just talking about from the Braves is kind of looking over. Like, any way for me to get in on some of this major league experience stuff?
Can I show you something crazy?
You may.
This is a picture of Ken Oberkfell signing a card for me in 1987. I'm dating myself that I was, you know, able to get a card signed, so I'm an old man. But that was Ken Oberkfell as a Brave in 1987 signing a card.
And we got another point for Team Kevin here.
Woo, Barry Larkin.
Barry Larkin.
And my permanent fantasy shortstop of the 90s. He was, you know, back before everyone on every position on the field could hit 30 homers, he was incredibly valuable. He played every day, great batting average, had some speed, double-digit home runs. I mean, at that era, that's an enormous benefit.
I'm going to say my best friend Perry's favorite player by far. And to this day, I still get hassled about this. We were outside of County Stadium when the Brewers still played there. And Hank Aaron, for some reason, was in Milwaukee for some kind of, like, I don't know if it was a celebration or what exactly was going on. And so we try to go down that night and get some autographs before the game when players are coming in and all that stuff. And they're playing the Reds, and all of a sudden, Billy Aaron is there. Oh. So I'm like, hey, let's go get her autograph. And so, you know, we're in line and we get the autograph and everything, and everybody's excited. And some kid runs back over, hey, Dad, hey, Dad, hey, Dad, with a Barry Larkin autographed hat.
The exact thing.
As you might guess, my friend was not too pleased about that transaction. He's like, great, I got Hank Aaron's wife's autograph and this autograph of Barry Larkin that I wanted for years. But this kid has.
You can tell the world that you gave up a Larkin autograph for an Aaron autograph.
And I think he has told everybody in the world about that. Glenn Bragg, speaking of the Brewers, he played for them for a while.
Glenn Bragg's not a humble guy. Says it in the name.
Now, here's a guy that supposedly signs through the mail. We're definitely sending this one out from this series. I keep calling it a series. I could probably call it a set. But Juan Gonzalez, one of the most feared hitters in this era.
So I think we have an answer to a question that we were talking about this particular stadium because there was another card that was at this stadium. I wonder if this is the old Rangers ballpark. Well, I don't know. Maybe. There's a little bit of it that looks like... You know, the old Rangers ballpark was a minor league park that was sort of reconfigured for Major League Baseball. By the way, Juan Gonzalez, leading into this in Oklahoma City, 29 homers and 101 ribbies. So people knew he could hit. He was going to be a player.
One of my... I don't know if I'd say favorite names, but one of the most interesting names, Rance.
Rance Mullenix.
Do we have anything on how he got that name?
Rance? I'd have to look that up. To me, I always felt like there was I had to rearrange the letters in this to come up with the name of an early '90s band or something.
You know, you look at it, it's like, oh, it's Lance, and it's a typo, like the Ernest Riles cards that we've talked about on previous editions of Baseball Card Illustrated.
The 4 different versions of it.
I'm not 100% sure where Rance came along.
Rance,
like was it going to be Ranch? And like, we can't name our son a salad dressing flavor.
I can tell you this from a very quick Google search. Rance is actually not his first name.
Okay.
Steven is his first name.
So
Steve Mullenix.
Steve Mullenix.
That would have been fine.
So Rance is what, the middle name?
Middle name. Interesting.
I think we'll have to see if we can find a way to send this card to him and ask where Rance came from, if it's a family thing or what's going on. Because I've always thought it was kind of interesting. And yes, I am serious. It's kind of like playing a game of cards here.
I love it.
I shall play this card.
Todd Benzinger.
Raise you a Todd Benzinger.
Wow, that's a name too. That was one who was supposed to be a huge prospect, late '80s, early '90s. Didn't really map.
Speaking of prospects, here's a guy that the Brewers got for Greg Vaughn.
Mark Newfield, and this was a huge thing at the time because you're like, what's M and what's Vikings? What's that about? I wonder.
Minnesota Vikings.
Minnesota Vikings. New man on the Minnesota Vikings. This is I think the first year that Topps did this, where they took pictures from, and this is a high school clearly, where this guy was drafted.
Or it was when he was at the Seattle Pilots, because that's what they would have had for uniforms.
Probably. So fascinating to me, but sort of the start of an era right there.
And the final card on this edition of Baseball Card Illustrated, Ron Darling.
A lot of good Ron Darling stories. You know that he's first of all, he's a Yale guy, graduated from Yale, and he can work the New York Times crossword puzzle in minutes, which is incredible. I've never even tried.
You know how long it takes Hunter Pence to work the New York Times crossword puzzle? 3 hours, and that's just to turn it right side up. Anyway, on behalf of John Burkett, see I got the name right that time,
Woo-hoo.
Tommy Lasorda,
Slim Fast,
and Ron Gant, I'm Bronco.
I'm Kevin.
So long, everybody. You've been watching Baseball Card Illustrated.